I was sprawled on the couch, laptop scorching my thighs, when I stumbled into a nightmare. It was 2 a.m., February 23rd, 2024. Yeah, I remember the date because it's burned into my skull. Tara, my wife of 8 years, was off on another girls' trip, leaving me alone with a bottle of cheap whiskey and insomnia. I'd been scrolling through some shady corner of the internet, what I'll call yellow YouTube to keep this narration friendly, when a thumbnail froze my thumb midair. A woman in a black lace mask posed in a way that made my guts churn. I clicked it, cursing my curiosity, expecting nothing more than a quick jolt of guilt. But then, halfway through, I saw it. A tiny mole on her left wrist, shaped like a crooked heart. I've traced that mole in the dark, half asleep, more times than I can count. It was Tara's. I slammed the laptop shut, my pulse jackhammering so loud I thought the neighbors might hear it. No way. Couldn't be her. Tara's the woman who organizes our cul-de-sac's 4th of July cookout, who blushes when I tease her about spicy food being too wild. But my hands moved on autopilot, reopening the screen, shaking as I paused the frame. That mole stared back, a traitor in high definition. My chest tightened. 8 years of I love yous, lazy Sunday pancakes, her humming in the shower, all of it mocked by that crooked heart. Therefore, I couldn't unsee it. I sat there, whiskey forgotten, replaying every moment I'd brushed off her late nights or vague excuses. If this was Tara, then our whole marriage was a house of cards and I just lit the match. My name's Evan, by the way, 38, electrician, Ohio born and bred. Guess I should have stuck to fixing wires instead of digging into this mess. But who wouldn't? You'd do the same if you saw your spouse's secret life flickering on a screen at 2 a.m. I didn't sleep that night, not a wink. I paced the living room, barefoot on cold hardwood, trying to convince myself I'd hallucinated that mole. Maybe it was some look-alike, a cosmic prank. But then my brain snagged on another detail from the video, the background. Behind the masked woman, there was a strip of blue wallpaper, faint floral swirls curling like smoke. I bolted upstairs, flicking on the bedroom light so fast the bulb buzzed in protest. There it was. Our wallpaper, same blue, same swirls, peeling near the headboard where Tara always promised we'd get around to fixing it. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the mattress, staring at the wall like it might spill the truth. I grabbed my phone, hands clammy, and pulled up Tara's Instagram. Smiley selfies from her latest girls' trip. Wine glasses clinking, beach waves, her dark hair whipping in the wind. She texted me yesterday. Spilled Merlot on my shirt. Such a klutz. I chuckled, sent a heart emoji. Now that message felt like a middle finger. Those trips had ramped up lately, twice a month, sometimes 3. She'd say it was Lisa, her high school buddy, dragging her out for girl time. But the wallpaper didn't lie. This wasn't a random hotel or a friend's place. It was our bedroom, where I'd rebuilt her nightstand after a leg snapped last fall. Therefore, my mind raced, stitching together a quilt of doubt. I remembered her coming home once with sand on her shoes, even though Lisa lives inland. Another time, she'd laughed off a hickey-sized mark on her neck, blaming her curling iron. I'd bought it all, hook, line, and sinker. But now those loose threads were tightening into a noose. If she was filming that in our house, then who was behind the camera? And why? I rubbed my temples, the whiskey bottle taunting me from downstairs. I wasn't ready to believe it yet, but I wasn't ready to ignore it either. Morning hit me like a freight train. I called in sick to work, told my boss my stomach was a mess, which wasn't a lie. I'm an electrician by trade, 38 years old, good at untangling wires and troubleshooting shorts. But this was a circuit I couldn't fix with a voltmeter. I brewed coffee, hands shaky, and started digging through our life for anything I'd missed. Tara's the organized one, bills, budgets, all her domain. I'd never questioned it. But now, I logged into our bank app, expecting nothing but the usual grocery debits. Then I saw them. Cash deposits, $200 one week, $500 the next, sprinkled across months. No labels, just miscellaneous. She told me it was extra cash from her Etsy shop. Cute soy candles with names like Autumn Whisper. I'd even bragged about her hustle to my buddies at the bar. I leaned back in the kitchen chair, coffee untouched, steam curling into the air. Those deposits matched her trips. $300 just 2 days ago, right after she left. My stomach twisted into knots. Candles don't pull that kind of money in our sleepy Ohio town. Population 8,000, where the biggest event is the county fair. Therefore, I started connecting dots I'd ignored. Her phone buzzing late at night, screen flipped down. A new purse last month. Leather, pricey, way beyond our budget. I'd asked, and she'd shrugged, said it was a thrift find. Yeah, right, but I needed more than hunches. Confronting her now would just get me tears and denials. I'd seen her cry her way out of speeding tickets. So I grabbed my keys, drove to the hardware store, and bought a nanny cam. Tiny thing fit right into a smoke detector shell I rigged up. If she was hiding something, I'd catch it on tape. And if I was wrong, I'd laugh this off as the dumbest paranoid episode of my life, maybe even tell the guys over beers. But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. That mole, that wallpaper, they were screaming at me, and I was finally listening. Tara rolled in that evening, all lavender perfume and bright smiles. She dropped her duffel by the door, kissed my cheek, and launched into a story about Lisa's new boyfriend. Some guy with a man bun who talks too much about kombucha. I nodded, forcing a grin that felt like it might crack my face. Inside, I was a live wire, sparking and ready to blow. The nanny cam was already up, wired it myself that afternoon, tucked into the bedroom ceiling, angled at the bed. I tested it on my phone. Crystal clear, motion activated, silent as a ghost. You okay, Evan? She asked, brushing her dark hair back, that mole winking at me from her wrist. You look wiped. I mumbled something about a rough day, rewiring a breaker panel. She didn't push. Next morning, she hit me with it. Another trip. Emergency girls weekend. Lisa's heartbroken, needs me. She packed her duffel, chattering about spa days, while I sipped coffee and watched her every move. That mole kept catching the light, taunting me. Have fun, I said, voice flat but steady. She hugged me, her perfume clogging my throat, and drove off. But as soon as her taillights vanished, I grabbed my phone and opened the cam app. Empty bedroom, bed still unmade from her rush out the door. Therefore, I waited, pacing the living room, boots scuffing the hardwood. I replayed every sweet moment we'd had. Our first date at the county fair, her laughing as I won her a stuffed bear. The night I proposed, rain hammering the roof while she said yes. All of it felt like a script she'd memorized. If she was filming in our house, someone else had been here too. Some stranger in my space, laughing behind my back. My fists clenched, knuckles popping. I'd always been the fixer. Rewired our whole garage when the lights flickered, patched the roof after a storm. But this wasn't a loose connection I could solder shut. This was Tara, unraveling everything I'd built. And I was about to find out how deep the damage went. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed, motion detected. I'd been nursing a beer, staring at the wall, half hoping it was a false alarm. Maybe the wind knocked something over. But I opened the feed, and there was Tara, unmasked, setting up a tripod in our bedroom. She wore lingerie I'd never seen. Red lace, sharp against her pale skin. Adjusting the camera with a smirk. My beer slipped, splashing the coffee table. Then he stepped into frame, and my world didn't just crack. It shattered. Kyle. My brother. The one I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Not since he borrowed $2,000 for rent and disappeared. He was shirtless, grinning like a hyena, hauling a ring light into position. I watched, paralyzed, as they started filming. No sound on the cam, but I didn't need it. Tara giggled, tossing her hair, while Kyle gestured like some wannabe director, pointing at angles. Our bedroom, the same spot where I'd fixed her nightstand last month, cursing splinters under my breath, was their stage. My brother, who'd crashed on my couch when his ex kicked him out, who'd borrowed my truck and dented the fender without a sorry. And Tara, who'd cried on my shoulder when her mom passed, who'd promised me forever. Therefore, I shut the app, bile scorching my throat. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a gut punch with brass knuckles. Kyle knew every weak spot I had, every fight, every insecurity, and Tara handed him the map. But I didn't scream or smash the bottle against the wall. I sat there, staring at the wet ring on the table, and something shifted. They thought I was the chump, the clueless husband who'd shrug and move on. They were dead wrong. I'd spent years troubleshooting, finding the break in a line, tracing it back, fixing it clean. This was no different. I wiped my hands on my jeans, grabbed my laptop, and started planning. They'd lit the fuse. Now I'd burn it all down. Here are parts 6 to 10 of The Mask She Wore, continuing Evan's raw, Reddit-style confession. Each part is 440 words, totaling 200 words for this batch, bringing us to 400 words so far. The dance of context and conflict drives every scene, blending Evan's backstory and emotional turmoil with escalating tension and calculated moves. The tone stays immersive, conversational, and emotionally charged, with cliffhangers to keep you hooked. Let's pick up where we left off. I sat there, laptop glowing in the dark, replaying that footage in my head like a bad movie on loop. Kyle's grin, Tara's giggle, it was a double-barreled shotgun to my chest. I'm not some tough guy, okay? I'm just Evan, the dude who fixes your outlets and cracks dumb jokes about extension cords. But Kyle? He's been a splinter under my nail since we were kids. 5 years ago, he showed up at my door, reeking of stale beer, swearing he'd pay me back that $2,000 he needed. I handed it over. Family, right? Then he ghosted. No calls, no texts, just a dented fender on my truck as a parting gift. Tara had been there through it, rubbing my back while I vented, saying, "He's not worth it, babe." Guess she changed her tune. I leaned back, the couch creaking under me, and thought about our history. Growing up, Kyle was the golden boy quarterback, prom king, all that small-town Ohio shine. I was the quiet one, tinkering with radios in Grandpa's garage, learning how to splice wires while he smoked his pipe and told me, "Trust's a tool, Evan. Use it right or it'll cut you." I should have listened. But Tara, she'd been my anchor. Met her at 29, her spilling coffee on me at a diner, me fumbling an apology. 8 years later, I thought we were solid. Therefore, this wasn't just cheating. It was Kyle twisting the knife he'd already stabbed me with, and Tara holding his hand while he did it. My beer was warm now, the bottle slick with condensation. I didn't drink it. Instead, I pulled up our cloud drive, every photo, every video, and started scrolling. There she was, smiling at last year's fair, but now I noticed Kyle in the background of one shot, smirking near the Ferris wheel. How long had this been brewing? My jaw tightened. They weren't just filming in my house, they were rewriting my life, and I'd been too busy fixing breakers to see it. Rage was a live wire in my veins, but I didn't let it spark. Not yet. I've spent years troubleshooting, finding the fault, tracing the line, fixing it clean. This was no different. Tara and Kyle thought they'd outsmarted me, but I'm not the guy who punches walls and calls it a day. I'm the guy who rewired our whole garage in a weekend just to prove I could. So I grabbed a notepad, started jotting down what I knew. The videos, the cash deposits, Kyle's smug face. Evidence. That's what I needed. Confronting them now would just get me lies and crocodile tears. I'd seen Tara talk her way out of a parking ticket with a pout. First step. I checked the nanny cam footage again, saving it to an encrypted USB I keep for client blueprints. Every frame was time-stamped, February 23rd, 2025, 3:47 p.m. They'd been in my house today, hours after she'd hugged me goodbye. But I needed more. I logged into our bank app again, cross-referencing those miscellaneous deposits with her trips. Pattern was clear. $200 to $500 every time she left town. Then I dug into her phone bill. Separate account, her insistence. Using an old password she'd never changed. Fairdate 2017. Bingo. Texts to a number I didn't recognize. Dozens of them, late-night bursts. Meet at 8. Bring the light. Client loved it. My stomach churned. Therefore, I didn't stop. I booted up my work laptop, the one with software for tracing circuits, and started thinking bigger. If they were filming, there'd be a trail, uploads, payments, something. I wasn't about to let them waltz away with my life in their pockets. But my hands hesitated over the keys. 8 years with Tara flashed by, her laugh, her cooking my favorite chili, her curling up against me on cold nights. Was that all fake? No. I shook it off. They'd made their move. Now it was mine. And I'd play it so quiet they'd never hear me coming. Tara came home the next day, Sunday, like nothing was wrong. She breezed through the door, duffel slung over her shoulder, hair messy from driving with the windows down. "Missed you," she said, planting a kiss on my forehead. I froze, beer halfway to my mouth, the USB burning a hole in my pocket. She smelled like lavender and lies. "How's Lisa?" I asked, voice steady despite the storm in my chest. "Oh, she's a mess," Tara sighed, flopping onto the couch. "Cried all weekend. I need a nap." I nodded, watching that mole on her wrist flicker as she waved her hand. Every word was a jab, but I swallowed it down. I'd spent the night building my case. More cam footage downloaded, bank records printed, those texts screenshot. I could have slammed it all on the table right then, watched her squirm. But where's the win in that? She'd cry, deny, maybe even flip it on me. Say I'd driven her to it with my boring electrician life. I've seen her spin stories for neighbors. Like when she forgot to RSVP to a potluck. She's good. Too good. Therefore, I played along. "Rough weekend, huh?" I said, forcing a smirk. "Yeah, exhausting," she replied, kicking off her shoes. "Exhausting, right? Filming with Kyle in my bedroom must have been a real workout." My fists itched to clench, but I kept them loose, cracking the beer open instead. She didn't notice my eyes tracking her. Didn't hear the gears grinding in my head. I offered to cook dinner. Chili, her favorite, and she smiled, oblivious. "You're the best, Evan." The words hit like nails on a chalkboard. As she napped, I slipped upstairs, checked the cam. Still working, still silent. I'd catch more if they kept using the house. But my gut said this was bigger than a fling. Those deposits, those texts. They were running something, profiting off my trust. I leaned against the wall, staring at our wedding photo on the dresser. Her in white, me grinning like a fool. 8 years, and I'd never doubted her. Until now. Monday morning, I couldn't focus at work. I botched a simple outlet swap, nearly fried my hand. My boss sent me home, grumbling about head not in the game. He wasn't wrong. I drove straight to Nate's place instead, high school buddy, tech whiz, the guy who once hacked our principal's email for kicks. If anyone could help, it was him. He opened the door in a faded Metallica shirt, beard scruffy, squinting at me. "You look like death, man. What's up?" I didn't sugarcoat it. "Tara's filming dirty videos with Kyle in my house. I've got proof." His jaw dropped, then he whistled. "That's messed up. Come in." I showed him everything, the USB footage, bank records, texts. Nate's a geek, lives for this stuff. He plugged the drive into his rig, a Frankenstein mess of glowing towers and screens. "This ain't just cheating," he said, clicking through frames. "Lighting's pro, angles deliberate. They're selling it." My stomach lurched, but he kept going, pulling up the yellow YouTube site, cross-referencing metadata I didn't even know existed. "Uploads from your IP, Evan. Every few weeks. Consistent." He paused, frowning. "And payments, PayPal, Venmo, some crypto wallet. They're raking it in." Therefore, I leaned in, pulse racing. Nate cracked his knuckles, grinning like a kid with a new toy. "Give me a day. I'll dig deeper, find their accounts, their clients. You want dirt? I'll get it." I nodded, grateful but hollow. Clients. That word stuck, festering. Were they randos online, or worse, people I knew? Nate clapped my shoulder. "We'll bury 'em, man. Just say the word." I didn't answer yet, but the idea was taking root. Nate called me Tuesday night, voice tight. "You sitting down?" I was in my truck, parked outside a job site, rain drumming the windshield. "Hit me," I said. He didn't hesitate. "It's not just videos. They're doing custom orders, clients request stuff, they deliver. Your house is their studio, but it's bigger than that. I traced their Venmo, hundreds of transactions, thousands of bucks. And Evan, some of these names I recognize. My grip tightened on the wheel. Like who? He rattled off a list. Mike from the hardware store, Greg who coaches Little League, even Pastor Dan's son, Tim. People I'd nodded to at the gas station, shared beers with at the VFW. I stared at the rain streaking the glass, each drop a punch to my pride. Our town's small, 8,000 souls. Everyone knows everyone. Tara and Kyle weren't just betraying me. They were turning my life into a sideshow for folks I'd see at the grocery store. Humiliation burned hot, then cooled into something sharper. How much they making? I asked. Rough guess? 10 grand a month, maybe more. Offshore accounts hiding the bulk. 10 grand. More than I pull in busting my back with live wires. Therefore, fury flipped a switch in me. I wasn't just the cheated husband anymore. I was the mark, the punching bag for their little empire. But I'd fixed worse messes. Last year, a client's whole panel shorted. Sparks everywhere. No one else would touch it. I traced every line, rewired it clean. This was the same. Nate, I said, voice low. Can you hack their accounts? He laughed, dark and eager. Already halfway there. What's the play? I didn't answer yet, but the wheels were turning fast. Here are parts 11 to 15 of The Mask She Wore, concluding Evan's gripping Reddit-style confession. Each part is 440 words, totaling 200 words for this final batch and bringing the full story to 600 words. Right on target for a 30 to 35-minute read. The dance of context and conflict drives the narrative to a brutal, satisfying climax, with Evan's transformation from betrayed husband to ruthless avenger shining through. Twists escalate, stakes soar, and the tone stays raw, immersive, and conversational. Let's finish this. Wednesday night, I sat with Nate in his basement, the hum of his computers drowning out the rain outside. He'd cracked their accounts, PayPal, Venmo, even that shady crypto wallet. They're sloppy, he said, smirking. No two-factor, weak passwords. I'm in. I watched him redirect their payments to a shell account he'd set up. Untraceable, he swore. Thousands of dollars siphoned off in minutes. But that was just the start. I leaned over his shoulder, voice low. Plant some fake requests. Make 'em specific. Stuff only they'd know to do in my house. Nate grinned, typing fast. Like what? Tell him the client wants the blue floral wall in the shot. A red lamp on the nightstand, my lamp. I'd spent years fixing things. Clients' homes, my own life. Grandpa used to say, a good trap's half bait, half timing. This was both. Tara and Kyle thought they were untouchable, raking in cash while I wired houses like a good little drone. But I'd rewired tougher setups than this. Last summer, I traced a short in a barn that had stumped 3 guys before me. Found the break, fixed it, no fuss. Now I was the break they'd never see coming. Therefore, Nate sent the requests through their client portal, spoofing a local IP. Done, he said. They'll bite, money's too good. I nodded, picturing Tara unpacking that tripod again. Kyle barking orders. They'd film in my bedroom, thinking they'd won. But every frame would tighten the noose. I cracked my knuckles, the sound sharp in the dim light. What's next? Nate asked. I didn't answer, just stared at the screen, watching their empire bleed dry. This wasn't about confrontation anymore. This was about control. Thursday, my phone buzzed with cam alerts. They'd taken the bait. Tara and Kyle were back in my bedroom. Red lamp glowing, blue wall framed just like the client wanted. I watched from work, crouched in my truck, rain pelting the roof. Tara posed, Kyle adjusted lights, both oblivious to the money vanishing from their accounts. Nate texted, another 5K rerouted. They're freaking out. Check their messages. He tapped their phones too. I pulled up the feed, texts flying between them. Tara, where's the payment? Kyle, glitch, I'll fix it. Panic seeping through every word. I smirked, leaning back against the seat. I'd always been the steady one. Fixed our leaky roof when Tara freaked out. Rewired the kitchen after a storm fried the breaker. She called me her rock. Now, I was the boulder rolling downhill and they were in its path. But I kept quiet at home that night. Tara came in late, eyes red, muttering about car trouble. "You okay?" I asked, stirring chili on the stove. She nodded, too quick. "Just tired." Lies piled on lies. Therefore, I savored it. Their scramble, their confusion. Nate called later. "They're hemorrhaging clients. Words out, payments aren't landing." Good. I pictured Kyle's smug face twisting, Tara's charm cracking. But it wasn't enough yet. I'd spent 8 years building a life with her. Nights on the couch, her head on my chest, planning a future. They'd torched it for cash and laughs. So I'd torch them back. I told Nate, "Keep the pressure on. I've got more in mind." He didn't ask what. He just laughed. Friday, I upped the ante. Nate had clipped the footage. Blurred faces, but the mole, the wallpaper, the red lamp screamed Tara and Kyle to anyone who knew them. I didn't leak it myself, too messy. Instead, I sent it to Jenna, our town's gossip queen, from a burner email. "Recognize this?" She runs the local Facebook group, 8,000 members, all nosy as heck. By noon, the post was up. "Who's this couple? Looks like someone's house on Elm Street. Elm's my road." Comments exploded. Mike from Hardware. "That lamp's from my store." Greg from Little League. "Wait, is that?" No names, but the dots connected fast. I was at a job site, rewiring a panel, when my phone lit up with texts. Guys from the bar. "Dude, you see this?" I played dumb. "See what?" and checked the group. Tara's name popped up in speculation by 2 p.m., Kyle's by 3. Their reps were toast. But I'd seen worse fallout. Last year, a client's barn burned from bad wiring. Family lost everything. I'd helped rebuild, no charge. This was different. This was justice. Therefore, I watched it spread, church ladies clutching pearls, clients backpedaling. Tara called me, voice shaky. "Evan, people are saying crazy stuff online. It's not true." I said, "That's awful, babe." Calm as ice. She didn't suspect me. Neither did Kyle. Texting her, "We're screwed. Lay low." Too late. I'd turned their dirty little secret into a town bonfire, and I hadn't even struck the match myself. But the best was still coming. Saturday, I dropped the hammer. Nate had dug deeper. Found emails between Tara and Kyle plotting to frame me. They'd planted fake receipts in my workshop, linked to their offshore account, hoping to pin tax evasion on me if the IRS sniffed around. Idiots didn't know I'd already found them, tucked behind my toolbox. I'd spent Friday night prepping, photocopied every scrap, added the cam footage, bank records, texts. Then I filed for divorce, attaching it all as evidence of irreconcilable differences. State law loves a paper trail. I served her that morning, process server knocking while she sipped coffee. She opened the envelope, face draining white. "Evan, what is this?" I stood in the kitchen, arms crossed. "You tell me, Tara." She stammered. "It's not. I didn't." But the mole on her wrist gleamed under the light, and I pointed at it. "Recognize that?" Her eyes widened. I didn't yell, just laid it out. "The videos, Kyle, the money, the frame job. You used my house, my brother, my trust. Now you've got nothing." Therefore, she collapsed into sobs, but I was done. I'd rebuilt my life once. After Dad left, I'd worked summers to help Mom, learned my trade young. This was just another rebuild. I walked out, leaving her with the papers and a tip to the IRS hotline about their account. Nate confirmed it later. Feds were interested. Tara and Kyle were staring down audits, maybe jail. I didn't care. I cut the circuit clean. Sunday, I moved out, rented a 1-bedroom across town, just me and my tools. Tara texted nonstop, "Please talk. I'm sorry. It was a mistake." I didn't reply. Kyle tried calling, blocked him mid-ring. The Facebook group was a war zone. Half the town pitted me, half roasted them. Jenna posted screenshots of Tara's Etsy shutting down, Kyle's truck for sale. Their empire was ash, and I'd barely lifted a finger. Nate met me for beers that night, grinning. "You're a legend, man." I shrugged. Just fixed a problem. I'm not the same guy I was a week ago. That Evan trusted too easy, loved too hard, thought Tara's chilly nights and Kyle's sob stories meant something. Now, I'm sharper, colder. I think about Grandpa a lot, his pipe smoke, his lessons. Trust's a tool. I'd used it wrong for years, but not anymore. Therefore, I'm free. No jail for me. The IRS had their scapegoats and state law favored the cheated spouse. Tara and Kyle? They're drowning, legal fees, no cash, no friends. I sleep fine now. Tools lined up in my new place. No one to lie to me in the dark. Maybe I'll rebuild again someday. But for now, I'm good. And they're not.